You finally quit your addictions. You've been living well without them. You smile more, you live in the present moment, and even when the urges come, you find the purpose and discipline to not give in. So life is going great. Then one day comes when the urge is stronger than usual, and you find yourself in the perfect situation for it. Suddenly a thought pops up. Just this once. We haven't done it in months. Let's reward ourselves. Sometimes it even happens because you're around friends, and part of you just wants to relate with them. Recently, this happened to me. I relapsed. After 7 months of winning over my urges, I let them win. Maybe your streak isn't 7 months. Maybe it's just a week, but now you're feeling like a failure and you feel defeated. If that's where you are right now, this video will really help you. Because in this video, I'm going to share a few things you need to do after a relapse, things I personally did that helped me move forward. First, you need to truly understand why you relapsed. Relapsing isn't simply about a lack of willpower or some permanent condition. Most of the time, there are underlying reasons why our brain tries to escape whenever we relapse. Common triggers include high stress, emotional distress like anxiety or depression, environmental cues such as certain people or places, and a lack of support. It usually starts with emotional triggers, moves into psychological bargaining, and eventually ends in the action itself. When I relapsed, it was a quiet, cozy evening. For some reason, I felt really lonely. I felt alone. I had been working really hard and was already burnt out. Scrolling through TikTok felt less comforting at that moment. I texted a friend, and within minutes of that conversation, I found myself going back to my addiction. It was really devastating and frustrating for me when I got back home. In my mind, change was supposed to be straightforward and perfect. I wanted to be completely done with my addictions and never go back to them again. But the truth is, real change doesn't work that way. Real change looks messy. There are moments of progress, moments of doubt, moments where old habits try to pull you back. And this happens with almost everything. Quitting addictions, building discipline, trying to become more productive, even working towards success. I had to realize that the path forward will almost always include setbacks. And this is what most people misunderstand. They treat relapse as proof that they can't change. But in reality, relapse is often part of the learning process. You need to understand something fascinating about your brain. It loves familiarity. Even if a habit is bad for you, if it's familiar, your brain still sees it as safe. And because of that, it will give you reasons to negotiate with the bad habit. That's because your brain evolved to prioritize survival, not self-improvement. Anything new requires energy and uncertainty. Old habits require almost no effort. They're automatic. So when you try to change your behavior, your brain naturally pushes back. When I felt really lonely that night, my brain already knew the escape route. Before I decided to quit, whenever I felt that way, I always had one way of escaping, going back to my addiction. So instead of constantly fighting my brain, I realized I needed to start rewiring it. Here are 3 things you should do after you relapse. Don't beat yourself up. Whenever we give in to our addiction, there's always a mental battle that follows. We begin to feel really sad and angry with ourselves, and we start seeing ourselves as failures. Thoughts begin to appear like, I'll never be able to defeat my addiction, and we start beating ourselves up over it. But doing this doesn't actually help. In fact, it can make things worse. When you constantly beat yourself up, you begin to feel even more lonely, and that loneliness can push you right back toward your vices for comfort and escape. So in summary, beating yourself up is harmful to your growth. Instead of attacking myself after the relapse, I reminded myself of something important. This one moment didn't erase the 7 months of progress I had already made. It didn't cancel the hard work I had put in. Because of that, I still believed I could overcome it again without giving in. So remember this. When you attack yourself with thoughts like, I'm weak, or I'll never change, you create shame and stress. And when your brain feels that level of discomfort, it starts looking for an escape, which often leads you right back to the addiction. Journal your thoughts. Whenever I say this to people while trying to help them, some of them feel attacked. Most people don't really see the effect journaling can have on their life and the decisions they make. When I fell back into my addiction, the first thing I did was journal about it. I wrote down what happened and why I went back to it. After a relapse, Your mind is usually filled with different thoughts. Journaling helps you slow your mind down and look at things more clearly. Here are 5 reasons why journaling is a key decision to make after you relapse. 1. It reveals the real trigger. 2. It slows down your thinking. 3. It helps you notice patterns. 4. It separates the event from your identity. 5. It helps you build a prevention strategy. So after you relapse, instead of beating yourself up, take some time to sit down and journal. Write honestly about why you gave in to the urge. Be brutally honest with yourself and then think about a prevention strategy so it doesn't happen again. Journaling is one of the first steps towards self-awareness and toward finally breaking your patterns. Cut off the distractions. Right after journaling, it became clear to me that I needed to change my friend circle. It felt strange realizing that my own friend group was offering me that kind of escape whenever I wasn't feeling happy. I didn't want that anymore. I didn't want to associate myself with it. I was ready to change my environment. And to be honest, I did. You need to realize that you are the sum of the people you spend the most time with. Yes, cutting off friends takes courage and willpower. But ask yourself an honest question. Are you trying to save your relationship with your friends or your own life? If you're truly ready to change, then you also have to be ready to make difficult decisions like this. But at the end of the day, you should realize that relapse can actually be a good thing. Something surprising happens when people relapse. If they're paying attention, they start noticing patterns. They start asking questions like, what triggered this? Was it stress? Boredom? Lack of sleep? Distraction? Every relapse carries information. It reveals the weak points in your system. For example, someone trying to build discipline might notice that their worst habits return when they feel overwhelmed. Another person might notice they fall back into bad habits when they isolate themselves. These insights are valuable because once you understand the trigger, you can prepare for it next time. Relapse becomes feedback, and feedback is one of the most powerful tools for growth. There's something powerful about starting again. Every time you restart after a relapse, you prove something to yourself. You prove that one mistake doesn't control your future. You prove that you're capable of continuing, even when things feel imperfect. And over time, those restarts build confidence. Not the confidence that comes from never failing, but the confidence that comes from knowing you can recover. This kind of confidence is stronger because it's built on resilience. The people who succeed in changing their lives adopt a different mindset. They stop asking, why did I fail? And start asking, what can I learn from this? They treat setbacks as part of the training. They don't expect perfection. They expect improvement. That shift changes everything. Because when you stop fearing relapse, you stop avoiding growth. You become more patient with yourself, more aware, more disciplined. Not because you're perfect, but because you refuse to give up. This video is aimed directly at those struggling with bad habits and addictions. But the same advice applies to almost anything you're trying to improve in your life. It could be staying disciplined or trying to stop procrastinating. You might even be addicted to procrastination, and the same principles still apply. I truly hope this was helpful, and that it helps you stop giving up after a relapse. If you found this valuable, I would really appreciate it if you liked the video, shared it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribed to the channel. Thank you so much for watching.